Hello everybody and welcome to a special edition of Mature Living, and we're calling it The Way Things Were. And let me tell you how this came about, and then I'll introduce the guests. I've been in El Paso for 45 years now, and it never fails to amaze me when I meet somebody new that they say to me, "Where did you go to high school?" Well, I went to high school in New Jersey, so I can't really, it doesn't work for me in El Paso. But even when we have people over to our house for dinner, if they don't know each other, they say to each other, "Where did you go to high school?" And then they may have gone to the same high school, they may have gone to rival high schools, but that's the first question out of their mouth. And I just came back from a vacation, and I'm standing on a beach in South America with some lady, and she says, "Where'd you go to high school?" She said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "El Paso." She said, "Where'd you go to high school?" I went to Isleta. I thought, this never ends. You can be all around the world. So let me introduce you to our guests today. We have Patsy Terrazas-Stallworth sitting here with me from Austin, and Jim Wofford sitting here with me from El Paso High. We've started with them because these two schools were rivals. And we want to know, what was it like going to high school back then? And the first question I'm going to ask both of them, give them each a chance to tell me why they think it's so unique and why people are so connected to their high schools here in El Paso. We'll start with you, Patsy.
I think that El Paso in itself is a homegrown family city. No matter how big it gets, it's still a small town. We stay connected with family, friends,
and high school friends.
and obviously high school friends. But no matter where we go and how long before we get back, that unity's still there. Why? I think it's because maybe we're taught the at-home values that you cherish family and you cherish friendships, and they grow and you keep them.
And you graduated from Austin in 71, is that right?
Austin in 71. I left for 18 years, came back, and reconnected.
And you still keep up then with your friends from high school?
Still keep up. It was like we never left. I'm on the Austin Alumni Board, very active with alumni.
Now, my kids went to high school here, and it's the same thing. They're all over the country. I have two up in Chicago and one in New York, and they still, every year, get together, not with their college friends, with their high school friends. I mean, it's wonderful. And I think it's a wonderful feeling and a wonderful statement about El Paso. Jim, what about you? Why do you think it's so unique?
What Patsy said. It is very unique. Growing up here, there's a certain bond that happens that you I don't think you realize when it happens. But after you've been away or out of, certainly from high school and everything, you'll run into people, you'll hear about people that you had, are friends and classmates, and what they are doing, their status in life or where they're living, are they still here? There's just a unique bond that happens with that, and I think that was a special time in high school, and at least in the early 60s, right, when I went to high school, we were a pretty tight group, all in all, and there were very few cliques that were present then, and you socialized and became friends with everybody. You went to their homes, they came to your home. You went to events together, be they social events, right, or sporting events. It's just a very unique thing.
And you graduated in 65, so, excuse me, so did I. And you also, like Patsy, but you're on the El Paso High Alumni Board, right?
Yes.
And that in itself, I think, is interesting, that both of you are not only involved in your high school and the future of your high school, but also you just are so terribly involved in the past at the same time.
True.
Yeah. Tell us a little. First of all, you were rivals, right? The school.
We are.
Yeah.
There's no weren't about it. We are.
You wanted to grab his hat and turn it upside down. So Tell me a little bit about, I know there was this big rivalry with football, and you were telling me some stuff before we came onto the set about this thing with the claw. What was the deal with the claw?
I'm going to let you take it
All right.
since you have it less than we do.
Yeah.
The rivalry continues.
There, some years, 9 years before 1965, like 56, whatever, there was a trophy developed of a claw because it's El Paso Tigers and Austin Panthers.
Golden Panthers.
Golden Panthers.
Oh.
And, well, fighting tigers. Anyway. Anyway, a claw was developed, cast in bronze, and the winner of the annual rivalry game would possess that claw until the next game, and it would always be with the winning school. Well, in the 1963 season, my junior year, we were all prepared. I was on the football team, and we were all prepared to beat Austin that year and take the claw back and everything. Well, that was the day that Kennedy got assassinated, so the game was canceled. So my senior year, we again got all revved up for the game, and the pep assemblies for both schools was broadcast on the local radio station. And it went back and forth and everything, and it was like the whole city was listening to this. Anyway, so El Paso High played Austin that game in 1964 football season in the Sunbow Stadium, and we were the
That's
first.
how big it got.
Yeah, we were the first high school teams to play in Sunbow Stadium, and through skill and luck, El Paso High won that year.
It was all luck, Jim. All luck.
And so we, after 9 years of having this trophy in place, El Paso High finally won the claw.
Well, Patsy was the young one at that time. I think you said, "Oh, I was in 8th grade when that happened."
Yes.
So, but do you remember the radio pep rallies?
I remember I don't remember the radio pep rallies. I have heard people talk about it. But from my experience at the games and at the pep rallies, they were big. They were so full of enthusiasm and, spirit. I recently went back to Austin and attended one of the games, and that's my goal. I'm going to bring that back, bring that spirit, because it was something to see.
Well, it actually sounds like there is a lot of spirit. I don't know. Maybe it's different now with the people who are going to the high school currently, but it seems like you guys have all of this high school spirit, and you've been out of high school forever. Not to say that we're that old, but
You guys have been out forever.
Yeah.
you've just been out for a little bit of time. When I came to El Paso, to me, it was like coming back to the 1940s. I absolutely loved it when I came out here. I remember, again, 45 years ago. That's a long time. I think they had a McDonald's. I don't remember any other fast food restaurants when I was here. Maybe Chico's was here.
No Whataburger.
I don't remember them. I remember you had to go to Juarez if you really wanted Chinese food, except for that one place on Montana. I can't remember the name of it.
Moon
right?
Garden.
Moon Garden. I remember.
But
Yeah.
it seemed to me to be such an innocent place and a great place to have grown up. Do you feel that way,
Yes.
Patsy?
Well put.
Yeah, it was almost a bubble in the country. I mean, you can almost imagine, something put over this area, and you just lived your life. It was almost like a TV sitcom.
Yeah.
That's what I saw it as.
It's Truman's World.
Yes, yeah.
There has always been this stigma, if you will, about El Paso, that we are so far from Austin and the rest of the state, if you think about it, that we're kind of like a little city-state out here.
Right.
And of course, we're not New Mexico.
No.
But Texas, we're very different from the rest of Texas. Generally there's very little accent in our speech pattern, in El Paso, and if you go into the other parts of the state, you know, people ask. I went to Texas A&M to college, and one of the first things I did get myself through school was work in a dining hall there. And I remember the guy standing next to me asked me if I was from Chicago because I had a Chicago accent. And I thought, I'm from El Paso.
But we don't. I don't think we
I'm
have.
from
an accent.
Texas,
My daughter went to Texas Tech, and she came back home for spring break once, and where'd you pick up that accent?
Well, let me ask you this question, because very few communities are really like this. I mean, we have Juarez right across the border. It used to be very safe. You go over. Did you do a lot of that in high school? Be honest.
My answer is going to be very boring.
Well, go on.
Yes, I did. Wait a minute. That's the exciting part, the boring part. And it wasn't boring. I had a blast. I'd go across with my mother, and we'd go get our nails done, and we'd go out to eat. If we went dancing, it was with my sisters. Sisters weren't allowed to go out alone. You need to take the little ones.
Right.
I was one of the little ones. It was very safe. I never did the high school fun thing.
Right. Okay. You were a good girl.
I was a good girl.
I did.
You were a bad boy.
Well, not.
And I think high schools have good girls and bad boys.
No, I don't think a bad boy, but it was when I was going to school. It seemed like many of the high schools had their own places that they met at, or clubs, if you will, in Juarez. For El Paso High, at the time I was going there, it was Max Feem's out by the racetrack. And I think Austin at the time was Fred's.
Yeah.
And
Well, you
so,
knew it.
I heard the guys talking about Fred's.
and we would go there on a Saturday night with our dates and have dinner and some other things. but we were always very careful and mindful of what we were doing and all that, and I don't remember any incidents at all that happened to my friends doing that. But it was kind of we thought we were very sophisticated. You know, once we got, we were able to drive and everything, and take our dates or our couples or whatever over there, and it was a lot of fun, and it really was a lot of fun. It was very inexpensive.
I remember going to Julio's when I first got here. $1.29. $1.29 got you a whole meal. I mean, it was incredible.
It was, and even downtown area. I mean, Juarez Avenue. You know, crossing over the bridge, walking over the bridge, and there were several clubs and restaurants down Juarez Avenue. The Florida Club, Martino's.
Oh my gosh.
Alcantar, or whatever, the guy that poured the drink.
You can tell.
Anyway,
I didn't do
Ciro's was in a little. Was in a
tacos,
little neighborhood, you know, and they had the best flautas you ever put in your mouth, you know. So it was great fun. It was.
And I think you would, it was great fun for the kids. I don't know, your parents were probably scared to death. I mean, again.
Well, they're probably just now learning
Right.
about this. So.
Well, I had 3 girls here, like I said, and, you know, as much as you say, do not go to Juarez, do not, so
They're gonna go.
thank God for cell phones. At least there were cell phones at that time. I mean, when you guys were doing it, well, when you were doing it, you were with your parents, but when you were doing it, you know, if there was a problem, it was going to be pretty hard.
It seemed like when that happened, that I heard about, it was not that hard to make a phone call back to the States and say, come help me, come do something, you know, and
Right.
and it happened. It happened pretty quickly, and there wasn't a lot of commotion or haranguing going on. So,
Well, I really am impressed because what you said too, but I have so many friends who were born here and raised here and left for college maybe and came back or stayed here, and they still have these close relationships with their high school friends. I mean, it's enviable, I think. It's wonderful, and it's very unique and different from other parts of the country. In fact, we were teasing out there, half the time in the obituaries here, it says, so-and-so went to Austin High School. You know, and that's in your obituary.
Just the important stuff, you know, just the facts.
And then they had, do you remember, what was it, with the Sun Queen and the Sun this and the Sun Bowl and the parades and how important all that stuff was. And that's what I'm saying. When I got here, to me, that was very, oh my God, this is the 1940s all over again. I loved it, but it was like, where does this, because I was from New York, New Jersey area. And I'm thinking, what is going on here? But I mean, some of these wonderful traditions. I mean, did you all go to the Sun Bowl?
The high school has such a part in the Sun Carnival Parade. Every high school's in there.
Yeah.
I was in the parade one year.
Were you?
On a float.
Really?
Yeah, it was some kind of Indian goddess or something. It was freezing. It was the first time I drank coffee. But yeah, there was a lot of involvement from the high school bands, the marching bands. You know, high schools really took part in it. And then you look at New York's.
No,
it's big time.
Yeah, it's just a totally different way of growing up, a totally different way, I think, of experiencing adolescence, really, teenagehood, whatever you want to call it. I'm friends with one person from high school, and he's my cousin. So, you know, I really have my friends are from college. And I'm sure you both have friends from college, but still the whole idea of coming back to this environment is terrific. What could you date people from other high schools?
Yes.
Like especially Austin and El Paso.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a rule anywhere, but
no, I know there wouldn't be a rule, but were you sort of looked down on if you dated somebody from a?
I did that. I dated a girl, my ex-wife from Austin.
Oh, see, he's not all bad.
my ex-husband was Burgess.
Oh, you're not all bad either.
And it was, I don't know, maybe my friends didn't say anything to me about it at the time, but no, it didn't seem to be a big deal.
Do you remember who the principal was of your high school?
Mr. Moorhead.
Is that who Moorhead Middle School is named after?
No.
Okay.
That Moorhead, and actually the stadium at El Paso High is Moorhead Stadium, named after Mr. Moorhead, who was, I think, the first or one of the early superintendents of the school district. And that's where I think the name of the high school, the middle school and the stadium came from. But it just happened to be a coincidence. As a coincidence, even further than that, the spelling is a little different, but we had a principal named Mr. Moorhead, and we had a basketball coach named Moorhead as well. So it was
Who was your principal?
Mr. Harris.
And what was he like?
Nice, quiet, strict. He let all the other guys do the bad things, the discipline and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Very available, walking the halls, you'd meet him. People knew who he was.
Right.
Very approachable.
And we were talking again before we started the taping that all groups in town seem to get along. Anglos, Hispanics, Jews, Arabs, whatever.
It was
There
real
was no
real melting
division.
pot.
Even though we were in school during the civil rights movement, we were almost naive about what it was. It wasn't present here in El Paso.
It's that little, you said the little area, the Truman's World, whatever we lived in. I always called it the cocoon. We were in a cocoon out here where we lived naturally, and I think openly, with our fellow citizens and classmates and everything. Not a lot of consternation or whatever. Not a lot of. It just very diverse. kind of a
And I think
upbringing.
not enough people know how incredibly unique El Paso is. Not just your
I have
high
to
school
agree.
experience, but how unique this entire city is. Unique in a lot of ways. I mean, when I first got here and saw the word Isleta, I went, what? What is that word? And how do you say it? And I just enjoyed, I loved the Hispanic culture. I mean, I thought, and then I told you I was on vacation. For some reason, that draws me down like to Central America and South America. But it just seems to be such a nice,
Very warm.
family, warm culture. And I think the city, at least now, I don't know what it was when you were growing up, I mean, handles that so well. I mean, just,
Oh yeah.
I think it's 85% Hispanic, isn't it?
Yeah.
And probably at this point, I would think across the board, it's probably 85% lawyers are Hispanic and doctors are Hispanic and, you know, accountants and so on and so forth. And certainly judges, and that's the way it should be. I mean, that's what representatives do. They represent their community. And that's not to say, of course, you vote for somebody just because they're Hispanic, or just because they're a Jew, or just because they're Anglo. But
Right.
I think here it's just taken. I have a secretary. Her last name is Carter. I had no idea she was 100% Hispanic. No idea. She happened to marry a Carter. I thought maybe, I don't know, Italian. I don't know what the hell you are. and it didn't really matter. And I still have.
Exactly. It doesn't
I
matter.
still have a hard time, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And when I was growing up, this was before there was a big influx of Spanish people or Hispanic people into that part of the country. This was really my first experience.
Yeah.
And I came down here and I thought, man, I am a double minority. I'm Anglo and I'm Jewish. What is going on? How did this happen? But it was never, ever a problem. Totally accepted by everyone. And I think that's what, and maybe that's what you were taught in high school.
You know, and I've been asked, growing up at St. Joseph's Elementary School and going to Austin, did you hang around with all Mexicans?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if they were Mexicans or white or African Americans. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, I had friends in every race.
What's the deal? This may not have affected you, but I talked to some people and they say this goes back to their elementary school now. They were not allowed to speak Spanish in elementary school.
True.
Did you have that
True.
experience?
Oh yeah. Yeah. That,
Which was very short-sighted, I think, personally, because I think if you allow people to be bilingual at an early age, it just opens up so many opportunities.
Well, it does, and speaking as a person who regrets that, let me tell you this little story. It was frowned upon to speak Spanish, especially in school, and I mean, sometimes severe penalties, SWATs, stuff like that, in the old days of capital punishment.
Getting your
I
butt
mean
smacked.
not corporal
Right.
punishment, not capital.
Remember the paddles.
You'd think it was capital when one of those coaches hit you on the backside. But anyway, the kids who had help in their homes, domestic help in their homes, had maids that were Mexican, actually came over from Mexico for the week and took care of everything. Most of those kids' first language was Spanish.
Spanish, of course.
Because they were raised,
Yeah.
not raised, but they were
They were with that
ran-
person.
a
It was
long
part
time.
of their family.
Yeah,
And-
exactly.
And they became, and still are, totally bilingual and everything. Well, I missed on that part,
Right.
and everything, and so I speak Niño Español, little kid, kindergarten Spanish and
Well,
everything.
here's another story. I speak kind of kindergarten Spanish too, and this is also on the trip we were my wife speaks much better Spanish than I do. We're at this restaurant and talking to the waiter in Spanish, and so the owner comes over and says, "Where did you learn to speak Spanish?" And we explained we lived in El Paso. It was very close to Juarez, and it was important to speak both languages. And he said, "I have a best friend in El Paso."
Of course.
He went to Jefferson High School.
I mean, really, it is amazing.
Yeah.
I have some other questions here for you. So, let's talk about stuff that you could do in high school and you can't do now. I mean, could you smoke in high school?
No.
No.
No. Well, not in high school.
Under the bleachers?
No. Well, in the parking.
You know, you keep saying no, and he's saying yes.
You could smoke? I mean, it was.
Well, no.
No.
I'm saying we
Did you?
we
Yes.
did. Yeah, we
Could
did.
you? No.
I was going to say in the parking lot.
And when the teacher came, they'd stomp on
yeah.
the cigarette.
But the teacher's lounge was like a fog den. When the door would open and you'd look in there, it was just smoke. You know, you think you were in a Las Vegas casino or something. But
It was not allowed, and I remember seeing a teacher who I still admire with a cigarette, and I thought, what? It was odd.
Yeah.
Our dress code? Holy moly.
yeah.
There was a dress. That was a big difference, I think.
Big difference. No facial hair. Your skirt had to be down to here. And
Yeah.
It was crazy.
We had some guys that were a couple years ahead of me in high school, and they decided that they were going to get mohawk haircuts. And so they came to school, you know, with just a mohawk, the rest of it shaved off. They were suspended for 3 days because they were a distraction to the rest. It was said that they were a distraction to the rest of the
My
student.
husband was in track, and coach told him, shave the mustache.
Wow.
And he said no. He was not in track anymore.
Let me just say this, guys. I'm sorry, we have to stop. We could go on for hours,
yeah,
I
we
think,
could.
talking about this. So I want to thank you, and hopefully we can do this again.
That'd be great.
And if anybody is out there watching from any of the other high schools, because next week we're going to do Jeff and Bowie because they were rivals. But if any of the high schools out there want to contact us and want to be on this show, I want to give a number that they can call. They can call Mary Yanez, and her number at work is 831-7803. That's 831-7803. So anybody from an alumni association who wants to get their high school experience on here, please call. And if you can't get Mary, call me, Bob Warach, at 779. Look, I have to look at my own number. 779-3619. I want to thank you very much
Thank
for coming,
you.
and I
Thank
hope
you for
everybody
having us.
enjoyed this special edition of Mature Living. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.